Well, guys, in the month of April, there were over 83,000 jobs cut, which is a 38% increase from the month of March, according to Challenger, Christmas & Gray's monthly job report, which we cover on the channel every month. If you're subscribed, you can make sure you don't miss out on that. But what's really shocking to me, what's I think really surprising to a lot of people, is the reason why these jobs are being ended and who it's impacting. And we'll cover that in just a moment, because we're seeing some trends here in the hiring and firing of workers that is kind of unprecedented in humanity. And again, we'll get to that in just a moment. First, I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the data here. Surprisingly enough, job cuts are down quite a bit from last year. During April of this year, the cuts are 21% lower than last year. And year to date, it's actually 50% lower than the layoffs from last year, which on its face seems like good news, right? You know, we're not seeing as many layoffs in the private sector this year as last year, but it's not actually all good news, because the hiring plans have fallen off a cliff, guys. Hiring plans fell 69% from March, from over 32,000 hiring announcements to 10,000. Companies are not hiring, and we covered this in a video a couple weeks ago. Post a link to it here. Jerome Powell said there's essentially net zero new job creation in the private sector, which isn't good. And this is kind of why I've been saying, guys, this is a good time to start building up your side hustle, different streams of income, learning new skills, so that if you are amongst one of the many people to get laid off, you're not stuck in a very, very frustrating job market. It's just very difficult to find a job out there because companies are just not hiring. It's a weird time. A lot of, and what's happening too is we're seeing a lot of layoffs happening in the tech sector, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. And then what you've got these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the tech sector all kind of duking out and fighting over the same jobs. And again, we'll cover this in a little bit more detail here in just a moment. What I do just want to at least mention, what companies actually are hiring right now year to date. Number one is automotive, followed by entertainment and leisure, followed by aerospace and defense, and finally government jobs. I do find it interesting, this like leisure and hospitality industry, and this is kind of a theory that I have, is people become more disconnected, more kind of tied up in this digital world. They're going to be hungry for experiences, real life experiences. They're going to want to go out and move their bodies. And I just kind of suspect that's something that we're naturally going to see. Okay, and as I mentioned before, the tech sector led all industries in cuts, which again is why I've really been focused on this idea again, build a side income stream or consider what other job sectors there might be. And this is one of the reasons why I partnered up with course creators, and I've been talking about them a lot recently. I'll put a link in the comments if you want to check out what Course Creators is doing. They're just all sorts of trainings, free trials, a lot of cool stuff going on with Course Creators. So special shout out to them. Anyway, I want to focus on the word AI for just a moment. And that's what this channel is about. It's about AI changing everything. And I do think it's a very, very important time to be building with AI. And it's quite simple. It comes down to the simple fact that AI is completely forming the workplace. And you may recall a moment ago, I said there's a shocking reason behind all the layoffs that we're seeing. That shocking reason is AI, guys. I listen to the All In podcast, and Sachs is saying like, oh, well, AI is not really replacing jobs. And I hear Jensen Huang from NVIDIA saying, AI is, it's just going to create new jobs. And I do agree with that. On its face, it will create new jobs, different types of jobs. It's hard to predict where it's going to go. At least that's my stance. But during the month of April, AI was the number one cited reason for layoffs. 26% of layoffs from the month of April were due to AI. AI was the directly cited reason. And guess what? During March, also 25%. So we've got the reason for these tech layoffs are almost all AI, 26%, 25%. That puts AI as being cited as the top reason for layoffs for the year at 16%. 16% of layoffs so far this year directly attributed to AI, which, by the way, guys, is up from 5% last year and 2.5% the year prior. So we're starting to see a hockey stick of layoffs related to AI. And again, there's definitely a possibility it's going to lead to new job creation, different job creation, subcontractor type of work, different types of businesses, which are things that I've kind of talked about on the channel a lot. If you've been subbed to the channel, you kind of have some idea on the different types of business ideas and things that we're thinking about. But the reality is the private sector is not hiring, and a lot of companies we're starting to see an uptick in companies firing due to AI. Now, what does this tell us at the end of the day? Well, it really tells us that AI is completely reshaping how software is built and how organizations run. A couple days ago, I'll post a link to the video here, we talked about Coinbase, because Coinbase just laid off 14% of its staff, and it completely flattened its organizational structure, laying off middle management, expensive bloat. A few days prior, we talked about Microsoft giving out voluntary retirement plans to some of their older staff. These companies are flattening the organizations. They're cutting out all these middle bureaucratic, administrative type of stuff, A, because they're expensive and sometimes can slow things down, but B, and at least this is what they're saying, is that the AI is making them just much more efficient and more effective. They don't necessarily need all these middlemen reviewing and putting together charts and writing code and all this stuff. You can have AI doing a lot of that. The reality is, guys, that companies are shaving expensive humans from their staff and focusing on AI, automation, implementation, infrastructure. And by the way, I don't want you to get the wrong idea about me. I think that humans are incredibly valuable, infinitely valuable. I love humans. We are expensive, we are complicated, and I shared this stat before. Typically, an organization is going to be spending about 60% of its budget on labor. Humans are expensive. And the dream here for a lot of companies is how can we lower that cost? And AI is becoming a scapegoat, a reason, an excuse, an opportunity for innovation. It's happening. And I think, at least for regular guys like you and me, there is this first visceral kind of response that AI is bad, avoid AI, don't let it get into our organization. In some cases, guys are even sabotaging AI efforts. You definitely should not do that, because personally, I think that there's actually massive opportunity with AI. As AI becomes more infused into our daily lives, it creates more and more problems. And what do we get with problems? We need solutions. And so the guys like us, we can find all these different problems that are being created in this new world, and we can find solutions. And that's where the opportunities are going to be. When a big company, and by the way, when big companies start implementing more AI, proving AI, they start making more layoffs, other companies are going to take notice and start copying and implementing what works. This is kind of table stakes to reverse engineer what the most successful organizations are doing. And at least in the marketing world, which is where I live, we reverse engineer what competitors are doing and try to execute on something similar. But again, it all comes down to following the problems. And, again, I talked about this in a video a couple days ago as well. There's a lot of problems in the trades, construction management, project management. I'll post a link to the video here on some of the faster growing industries that are hiring, that pay six-figure incomes. But geez, guys, what do you think? Is this going to be like the end of organizational culture as we know it? Like 16%, where are the AI-related layoffs going to be next year? And is there going to be a point where AI-related hirings start to spike? It's a really kind of a crazy time right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to get swept on this tidal wave. So I'm going to keep innovating, keep testing new things, keep talking to people. If there's one thing that you should definitely be focused on now, guys, it is relationships. The people you know, the people in your network, that is going to matter more than ever. In-person relationships, interpersonal skills, looking someone in the face, shaking their hand, eye to eye, the emotional connection that you have with other human beings, I believe, is what is going to carry us through to the next level. So are you connecting, or are you a lone wolf? Are you going out on your own and not communicating with people that you should? Think about it. All right, boys, if you liked today's video, check out yesterday's video. You'll love it. You'll be focused. You're going to be set for success in this crazy, crazy new world. And I'll see you over there. Peace.